welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Before I get to today's show featuring Judith Taylor, the founder and principal designer of Judith Taylor Designs, I want to remind you about the in-person coaching seminar I'm hosting on July 28th in Las Vegas. So if you are already definitely planning to attend the Las Vegas market, and even if you're on the fence about attending, stay tuned later in the show. I want to tell you more about this event, which is in part sponsored by My Doma Studio, the IWCE International Window Covering Expo, which will be in Nashville this March 2019, Designer Inc., and Revel Woods. And if you just can't wait for the details, head over to luannigara.com/Las-Vegas. Alrighty, today's show. A few things about Judith's background and her career help to explain the expertise that she has in the conversation we have today about navigating the murky waters of working with friends and family. Because in addition to interior design, Judith studied at Toronto School of Art. She also has a bachelor's degree in psychology and business administration and a past career in information technology. These inter and extra-disciplinary facets provide her with unique ability to combine practicality, psychology, and aesthetics in the context of her interior design projects. So for the greater part of the show, we talk about that crazy space of working for and with family and friends. This is a tough subject, but Judith shares some spot-on advice and tips on how to handle this. If this has been a prickly challenge for you, I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with Judith. Another interesting thing we discuss at the end of the show is the new furniture line that Judith is launching. Judith comes from a heritage that comprises an illustrious multi-generational furniture manufacturing business that was in business for over 100 years and was formative in Ontario's furniture industry. To this day, legacy pieces of Krug Brothers furniture can be found all across the globe. Growing up with a grandfather who grandfathered the industry quite literally, she was exposed to fine furniture and art from an early age. So this new endeavor of hers is truly her circling back to her roots. Before we start the show, I'd like to thank my sponsor, My Doma Studio, the best platform ever for organizing your interior design projects, all your vendor communications, your client communications, and now, drum roll please, My Doma Studio has joined with Cravat Inc., another sponsor of this podcast, and you now can find Cravat Inc. fine products right in the My Doma Studio platform, making it even easier than ever for you to source, to create, and to specify products for your interior design projects. To learn all about how this platform can now combined with the power of Cravat Inc. Can help you in your business, head over to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. All righty, no further waiting. Let's hear what Judith has to say about working with family and friends. Hi, Judith. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. It's so great to meet you and be part of this. It's
Yes.
such a great contribution that you make. I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you, Judith. I appreciate that. I'm glad that we're doing this together because we've been friends on social media for a while. And so that's why I'm like, yes, this is fun to do this with you. So interestingly, you sent me a list of topics that you were very comfortable and felt that you would be happy to share with your colleagues from your experience. And the one topic that jumped out for me was this family and friends zone. And it's a very hard area to navigate. And you happen to have, as I said in the introduction, a background in psychology. So not only your years of experience as an interior designer, but also that background, I thought, you know what, let's do this topic with Judith, because you really seem to have a good perspective on it. So first, I mean, I don't think anybody needs an explanation on what the problem is with dealing with family and friends.
No, I think we've probably all been there.
That's right. But it is a hard area, right? I mean, and let's talk about it from the beginning. We're not talking about your mom and your sister, because your mom and your sister, you're going to work for free. Let's be real, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're getting a pass, but you still have to go in with your eyes open, I think, no matter who you're working with. And that's why I thought this was so important.
Okay. So then let's do that. So I was going to say, let's skip right over to the people that we know we have to put up with. But I heard in there is some guidelines and some things that we should be thinking about, even when it is your mom or your sister. It sounded like you wanted to say to me.
Well, yes, definitely. I mean, I really, first of all, I did say in my brief that this is a do as I say, not as I do kind of conversation, because we're all going to sometimes have a friend that we don't want to say no to, and that we wish we hadn't said yes to. Right. But, and I really break it down into when we're saying no and when we're saying yes. So, for example, when somebody does come up to you at a party, and we've all had that happen, you're invited to somebody's for dinner, and while you're there, they start saying, oh, by the way, what do you think we should do with our powder room? Or can you take a look at these 3 paint colors I've narrowed it down to? What are you going to do? What exactly? You're
right,
already
like you're gonna say, you're feeding me, giving me wine. No,
right,
I can't answer the question.
Right. And I always remember Kimberly Seldon's line, oh yeah, drunk decorating, my favorite. And that often cools a lot of people in their jets, because they realize we can't really be clear-headed, and you might pick a wild color. So you can really play that up and kind of put a stop to it right there.
That's cute. I like that.
Yeah. But that doesn't always work. So, if somebody actually does send you an email or a message, and you know the person, and you know that it's probably not somebody you're going to want to spend a lot of time with working on their project, because you just know the dynamics of the relationship. How do you handle that? Because you do want to say no, but you want to be kind about it. So there's absolutely, I have no problem now sending a reply back saying, I've got a full project load right now. Thanks for reaching out. Sounds like you're about to start a really exciting project. And as much as I'd love to help you, I'm at capacity, and I can't take on new projects, but I'm happy to recommend a designer who I think probably would be a good fit for you. And that way you're still helping them. You're recommending somebody, but you're also saying it's not about you. It's about the fact that I'm at capacity.
Right. Whether you are or not, that's the line.
You're going to be. You're going to be with some people. Trust me.
Yes. So, but take it a step back now to the dinner party.
Yep.
Because that's different. The email is easier. The email inquiry, hey, blah, blah, blah. That's easier to say, hey, I'm at capacity. That's not as confrontational, right?
Yes.
So, but at the dinner party, look, I've been in the same situation, not with full interior design, but with, window treatment questions and stuff. And there is a way that you can tell that somebody, they are just asking a question. They're really not going to hire you or anybody else to do this. They really do just want to know if you think that they should move the powder room, bathroom configuration. So what is the deal there? Are you just categorically want to get out of it, the drunk decorating, or there are times and places where you're happy to sit there and just, dream with them about the configuration or the colors or whatever?
Well, it's of course going to depend upon the situation. If it's a dinner party and there are a lot of people around, it's just not even going to be appropriate for the hostess to leave her guests.
No, right.
It depends
more
upon
the dynamic, if it's a secondary friend, it's like first level, brush off information. If it's a close friend, then maybe it's just you and your 2 husbands or something, and then you can get lost in the powder bath for a half hour.
Yeah. So again, it's going to depend upon the scale or what sort of question it is. If it's should we move the powder room over to here, and should we put an island or a peninsula in the kitchen? Might be a bigger conversation. And I always think better with pencil and paper. So it's
Mm,
not easy to do on the fly for me. When I'm doing space planning things, I just have to get out my paper and pencil and tape measure. And I will say that. I say, look, I can't respond to that and give you my best advice in this
mm.
manner. And I would hate to say something and have you proceed with that when it wasn't really well thought out. If it's
Okay,
something,
that's a good way.
yeah, if it's something as simple as, well, which fabric do you prefer for my drapes? Do you like this one better or that one better? Of course, I'm going to put it back to her and say, it's your home. Which do you love? Or if there really is a rationale that this one had the undertones in the background in this one work better, then I will say that. If it's as simple as that, but you've been given a perfect opening to say to them, you know what, I'd love to help you with that. What you should do, and now I'm segueing into the yes, what
Mm.
you should do then, if you really want my help, um, is to give my office a call and we'll set up an appointment.
Right.
And that
Because
way you've
I need paper
already,
and pen. I need
yeah,
to, we need better lighting. I need to not have had 2 glasses of wine. I need to
yeah,
have done a lot of things.
yeah. I want to give a
Right.
thoughtful response because you're investing good money
Hmm.
in renovating or moving your bathroom, whatever you're doing. So you've gently led them back over into the front door of your business.
Hmm.
And that's, if we're going to, can we talk about if when you're saying yes, that's one of the biggest red flags and problems that I have when you decide to work with friends and family is they circumvent your whole screening process,
Right.
often your whole intake process, and you can wind up wandering down the path and realize you've missed some really important steps.
Right.
So that's, my strongest encouragement when you are moving over into that yes column and you're going to say yes, we can help you out with that, is that you lead them all the way over to the front door of your onboarding process and have them make an appointment and start right away using language that communicates clearly now that this is a business transaction.
Right.
So in your communications, then you talk about setting up an appointment. You talk about saying, I'm really pleased that you've decided to hire me. I'll be offering my services at whatever rate you've decided, to make it really crystal clear. You're now moving into a business transaction.
Right, right. I have to say, all the way back into episode number 2 with Sandra Funk, she discussed this
She
exact
great.
thing.
Yeah.
Yes, she literally she said the exact same thing. Not only the advice to get them back through your entire process from step 1, like you said, back to the front door, but she also specifically mentioned that exact same thing, that anytime she's allowed somebody to circumvent that,
Mhm.
it has always resulted in some sort of a problem, not because necessarily the personal dynamic, but because the process was circumvented, information was missed. You
Yep.
know what I'm
Yep.
like you exactly described the exact scenario. And so she's saying, here you are, you're already halfway doing a favor. Maybe you're doing it at a reduced rate, or you're not charging for every little part of it. And all of a sudden, too, there's problems and dilemmas and mistakes. And it's always attributed to, we didn't do our process,
Yes,
And
exactly.
so, yeah, so episode 2 is a good episode for a corollary conversation on what we're talking about today. And I'll just say, iTunes does not. Oh my God, they're so annoying.
Oh,
They're not having the archive up of episodes 1 to 299. So you can go to my website, luannigara.com, though, and search in podcasts for Sandra Funk, and episode 2 will come up. So, but I have a question for you, Judith, on that.
mhm.
So I get what you're saying. I'm going to restate what you're saying.
Okay.
Somebody starts to ask you a question. They start to say, maybe it starts with which fabric on the drape. And then you say, well, I don't know what the furniture is. Oh, wait, let me go get the furniture swatches. Well, and here's the paint that I'm looking at. Now, all of a sudden, it's a consultation. And what you're saying is, we really should do this the right way. Why don't you call my office? Because I need to be clear thinking, and I need to have my paper and my pen, and that's how I work, and la, 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 la. So I get all that, and I think it's awesome advice. My question is, what has happened? Have you done that? And maybe not now, but think about when you weren't as able to be firm and control the conversation as carefully and as adeptly, because I can hear that in your voice now that you have seasoned and you're able to do it. But think back to earlier when you maybe were like trying to do that and they push back? Oh, I don't need to call your office. Could you, well, we could just do lunch tomorrow. Or I don't need to call your office. This will just take 5 minutes. The barbecue's not ready. Like, go back to, like you said in the beginning, this is a do as I say, not as I did conversation. Go back to the beginning and tell me two things, Judith. What happened when somebody pushed you back and you caved, and what happened when somebody pushed you back, and how, when you weren't as confident, did continue to push back at them? Can you recall things like that?
Well, sort of. I can recall early situations, but for me, at the time, I was just starting my business. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't really, at that point, invested in making an income and sustaining the business. I wanted a portfolio. So what I thought was, a couple of favors for a friend turned into more of a project than I realized. And I wound up getting portfolio photos out of it. So it worked out for me. And the whole time I realized that it was going to go in a direction that was going to benefit me. So I didn't need to manage the process at that point.
Okay, so we're saying now, if you're newer in business, as long as you don't let something run amok and you are figuring and counting and calculating and getting something in return, it's not always that your first 1 or 2 years in business that you need to turn down every friend and family member. If you can get it portfolio-worthy picture out of it, it might be worth the trade-off in the beginning, in your opinion.
Oh, definitely. That's probably how all of us started.
Okay.
We started
that's valid.
By helping friends and family to get those first portfolio shots. But it can, again, still be problematic. And that's why I started talking about the psychological aspect of it, because once you're doing that, you're actually in a dual relationship with somebody. And, if it's a good friend, you have a customary way of relating to one another. Yes. And now when you meet with a client, you put on a certain demeanor and a certain way of relating where you establish those boundaries. And that's way trickier with a friend because they're accustomed to, and more to the point with a family member, because they know how to push your buttons. They know how to get you to loosen up. And it's so much harder to be on your game because you flip-flop between those two relationships. But the other thing is that what can start as a single favor can quickly snowball, because we all know how things can go wrong in this industry, and we wind up managing them. And you think you're just helping somebody with something, and next thing you know, there are other things that tie into that, and you're chasing a trail of things that all need to be finished to get a good result, because you don't want to leave a friend hanging. Because you know that they're all doing this to have maybe a big public event, a party, and they're going to say that you helped them with it. So you want to make sure that it's perceived well. Right. So it can really, really snowball. And that's the concern also, because you're not filtering it all through the same vetting process. So I think what's most important is that you just take a minute, and that's why pushing them back to the front door gives you a chance to think it through and decide ahead of time and have the conversations that there are going to be disagreements maybe in the process, and how are you going to handle that, and know that, just remind each other that this is business and they're separate from the friendship, and you're just going to talk it through. I so many times have said to my brother, if it were my home, this is what I would do. And I just let that sit.
Right. You do what you want, buddy.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So there's a couple of things in there. One thing to restate is, it sounds like to me it's beneficial, even if you're newer and you have the idea that you might be in a position where you're more likely to take work with family or friends because you're building portfolio, that it doesn't hurt to not start, quote unquote, doing business in that casual setting, whether it was at lunch, just the two of you, a play date with the two of you and your children, or a formal party. And that it's no problem to say, now I'm going to put ourselves in a position of a pretty good friend, right? A pretty good friend, not an acquaintance, not somebody else at the party. Even that you're suggesting is in your mind, you might be like, this is awesome. I have an opportunity to work with my friend. She's going to make a nice room. I know what her budget is, what their lifestyle is. This will be portfolio ready. But you're saying even that's not a bad idea to just say, love to do this. Here, call me tomorrow when I'm in my studio, because we can get it started and get organized, because that gives you the overnight or the next couple of days. So just think about the psychological ramifications. You might already know that you're going to do this for 50 cents on the dollar because she's your best girlfriend, but it's going to get you business and portfolio. But you're saying take a breath on setting yourself up for running that tightrope of being her best friend and being a business associate to her.
Well, there's so many points in what you just said, Luann. It's so true, because by doing that, I mean, I would recommend for anybody at least do that.
That's what you're saying.
Just like saying,
very least,
saying pause.
Right.
By
I
saying,
like that advice.
Call me tomorrow.
Right. I love that advice.
You know, you're at a party, say, call me tomorrow, or call the office Monday. That gives a little bit clearer structure, because it gives you a chance to rethink it too. Right. It gives you a chance to reflect and say, okay, should it be a yes or should it be a no? Right. And how would I price it? So by just deferring till Monday, you've given yourself an opportunity to think it through. Because when you get back to the office on Monday, you start to look at your workload and your reality, and you're reminded that friends and family projects are not typically chosen because they're your ideal client and they're your ideal portfolio project. So by taking on that project, you've taken a chunk of your time that you can't be devoting to your business.
Right.
You're now devoting it to helping them. And again, you're back to a duality of purposes and of roles. You're benefiting them, but are you benefiting your business? Because that time you spend on their project, you're saying no to somebody else. For every project you say yes to, you're saying no to another one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love the idea. I love the suggestion, because even if you are in a position where you're standing there and you absolutely know that you have no clients on the table, and you know you're probably going to do this, and you know you love your girlfriend and you're actually going to do this with her, but I still love the idea of waiting the day, the weekend, or whatever, just so that you can collect your thoughts on how the parameters would be. Mm-hmm. And even in the moment, I don't know about you, but I'm not even visualizing it as a formal, well, I'm not sure how this would work. Let me, call me on Monday. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling like it's oh my goodness, this is going to be so amazing. I'm so happy to work on your kitchen with you. But like, we're here with our friends, we're drinking, we're having a good time. Call me Monday so we can get us started, or get a plan, or have a conversation. Because it's that part when you're young, not young in years, but young in business, and you're going to take the project either because you're not going to be able to say no because it's your sister-in-law, or you're not able to personally yet say no, right? Or whatever it is. The space to recalibrate and to think about what could the pitfall be, and what are our personality dynamics, and how will I have to set up pricing with this person, and how will I have to set up invoicing with this person so that we stay friends. So talk a little bit more. Let's assume we're newer in business. We're going to take a project with a friend or family member. It is going to be a transaction. There is some money that's changing hands, whether or not it's at our full rate, our deserved rate, our earned rate or not. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about I want to hear more about that conversation about you're functioning in one mode as a family or friend member, and you're functioning in another mode as a business person, and how they get muddy, and how do you navigate that? Give us your advice for there as a person. I know what you're saying, right? As a person.
Yes. Oh, and this is where boundaries are never more important, and just having that structure around the conversations that you have. And some friends or family members may not respond well to that, and they'll start pushing those boundaries and saying, well, come on, you can tell me how much discount you get on that sofa. And what are you going to say? What are you going to say? It's you have to think about that. How are you going to respond to them? Because to a client, you can say that's proprietary information. I don't disclose that. But now you're dealing with your best friend. And that's a bit trickier. So you have to have decided, well, she's going to push my boundaries. How am I going to deal with that? And the other thing you have to keep in mind is every time you're giving free advice or discounted advice. They value it differently.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, and they're more inclined to waffle and waver, and getting the decision-making process to work is much harder when they're not valuing what you say, because they're not spending the same hard-earned dollars. Now they're dealing with you as a friend. So it's very tricky. It's extremely, and the other thing is, we all know how difficult it is to have to fire a client.
Right, right.
But when it's
It
a
seems
friend,
to me,
I mean, I'm not really answering your question directly.
yeah, no,
I realize that, because other
it's
stuff is
okay.
coming.
It's
to me.
hard.
Yeah.
There's 9,000 ways to do it. It seems to me that it goes to what almost every single thing that we do in business goes to, is have the agreements up front.
Yep.
And so, like, that's why I love the idea of taking the day or the weekend or whatever, because I think that you could come to clarity. So your very, very best friend. Now, your mom is getting everything at no charge. We're not even going to talk about that, right?
Right.
but your very best friend.
Yeah.
So I could see a scenario where I would say to myself, okay, my very best friend, what am I going to do? All right, I'm either going to say to her that she can have everything at my net cost, but she pays me, I charge $100 an hour, she's going to pay me $50 an hour to putz with her and hold her hand and pick everything. Or she's going to pay my retail price on everything and I will donate my time to her. Like, I feel like it's what I say all the time when I'm coaching designers, decide what you will and you will not do. Mm-hmm. If you know that, like you said, if you take that time ahead of time and you know what really truly is fair in your mind and you can be comfortable with, even though it's way more than you would give a stranger, once you really understand what is the very thing that you will or won't do, now when you have that phone call with your friend on Monday, it seems to me, you correct me, it seems to me I'd be like, I've been thinking about this all weekend. And you know that I charge retail for my furniture, I put 10, 20, 30, 40% on all my trades, and I'm making, let's say, $75 an hour, because let's assuming we're newer in business. I'm making $75 an hour. But here's the thing. This is what I'm thinking I would do. I'm going to charge you $50 an hour, and I'm going to give you my trade discounts on furniture, but the trades that I come in and hire, you're going to hire them yourselves, or I'm going to hire them and I'm going to get like, in other words, I would just set it up and I would make sure it's a deal for her. Mm-hmm. But if she says, I really thought I was, not going to pay you at all, I thought we were friends, then I would look at her and say, I love you like life, lady. Mm-hmm. But if I'm working with you, I'm not making this 125 or 75 an hour that I should be making. So come on.
Yes.
Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
Like, I would just be that way,
No, exactly. And this is why, if you sit down, and I have done this with people, I've sat down, I sit down and I go through my letter of agreement. I say, this is how I work. This is how I price things. This is how I charge for my time. This is how I charge for product. And I would go through that. I would suggest going through that same front door process. And then you can let her know, and this is where I'm giving you a break.
Right.
Here
right.
and here, so that she sees that she's getting a break, but you also don't want her to be telling two friends and they tell for two friends and they tell two friends what your actual pricing is.
So that's the other thing. Yeah. This is your price. Don't be telling anybody it.
Yeah, exactly. But if you go through your full process with them, and then you can say, but for you, I'm going to do it this way, then they realize what all is involved, because they don't know before you start how much work goes into what you do.
Right.
And they don't realize how much you will be giving if you're not charging your hourly rate, how much value that is that they're getting.
That's a critical thing, because I feel like in every relationship that a designer starts with a potential client, whether it's a friend or a stranger, I have learned over the years that as a designer, you understand what you do, and 99% of the time, you underestimate that the rest of the world does not grasp the depth of it.
Oh, absolutely.
You see?
Yep.
And so because you understand so clearly that the mere fact of deciding on a floor plan is not a 10-minute process. Nope. See, the outside world, you do that every day. How hard could it be? That's what the outside world thinks, honestly,
right? I'm going to tell you, you know what I mean? And so what happens is what you just described, Judith, I love, is because even your best girlfriend, you take her through your actual initial onboarding intake process. And now your friend is sitting there thinking, whoa, I had no idea what you do in the course of a project. I didn't realize there were so many details. And if you offer her a break at the end of it, terrific. Give her a break. She's your friend. You love her.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If she says, that's really still too much money for me. Oh, okay. Well, call Ethan Allen and use their in-service person, or I can give you a name of somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you, lady.
Yeah. Call a few other people and see what they're going to charge you. Yeah. I mean, in the best outcome situation, she will appreciate that and value that,
right,
and become your best advocate and spread the word to other friends and say, call Judith or call Luann and get her to design your window coverings.
I think that's the biggest message here, right? The biggest message here is, if you're listening to this and you've had troubles with this before, if you can recall the scenario and recognize that you did not take the time to give the full-on professional proposal conversation and really explain the depth of what goes into managing an interior design project for somebody, and the project went south with your friend, and you know that you didn't do that, that's the first thing to look at. You don't have to, like we're saying, you don't have to charge them full boat. You don't have to, but they have to know exactly what it is, and that sets up your value.
And you have to go into it with your eyes wide open.
Right.
That, if it's a family member, let's say it's a cousin that you were close to, or
right.
in my case, my brother, of course I wasn't going to say no to him, and we get along really, really, really well. But I know that the way that I present things to him and I communicate to him when we're making choices, still draws on that childhood relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and restructure it all the time. And that's why I use that language. I say, look, I'm not going to be your bossy big sister on this one. I'm not. I'm just going to tell you, here are my reasons. And if it were my choice, I would do this. But it's up to you. And with a client, you respond differently.
Right.
The other thing that I think is really important, and I don't want to overlook this, I asked my husband this morning, just as he was going out, I mentioned to you he's a psychologist, and I said, so what's your advice here? And about the discount, because we haven't talked enough about the discount, and I think we should. I ran into a situation. Well, I'll tell you first what my husband said. I said, what's your advice on discounting your services? And he said, it's really clear. He said, you may be able to give them a discounted price, but not discounted priority. And I learned that when I was helping a girlfriend with a couple of her children's rooms. She'd hired me for some help, and I thought, well, this will be fun. I'd love to do a couple of little kids' rooms. And I was sort of the mind, well, I'm not going to charge for my time. And meanwhile, on the other hand, I just had my first really big budget luxury project, and I was working on that, and I was excited but a little anxious about it. So I was giving that a lot of my bandwidth, and I got a message from her saying, how's it going? How's it coming along? And I realized that she wasn't feeling the love.
Okay.
And that's when it was a wake-up call for me. And I sat down with her right away. I said, can we talk? And I sat down with her right away, and I said, this is what's going on. I thought I could help you and wouldn't charge you or wouldn't charge you very much, but I'm realizing that I've got another client who's paying my full rate and demanding a lot of my time and attention. And really, to get in the queue, you have to be on that same stream. And you just can't be discounting your rate and thinking, well, I'll fill in the cracks with their project, because they are not going to appreciate that. You think that they'll cut you the slack. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. All they know is they're not hearing from you. Things aren't happening in good time. Right. This is lessons learned after the fact.
Right.
The other thing that my husband always brings to me when I'm stuck with an issue is he always says, share the dilemma.
Right.
And if I were to ever get a tattoo, I would put that on my arm. Share the dilemma, because whenever there's a conundrum, a problem, you don't know how to handle a situation with the client, go to them and share the dilemma and say, and I did with this friend, I said, look, here's the situation. I didn't know when I started with you that I was going to get this big project that's really important to me.
Right.
I still want to help you, but it's going to go awfully slowly if I'm not charging you at all.
Right.
So I can either do this or I can do that. How do you want to proceed?
Right.
I think we should do it this way.
I love it because you know what, you're talking my language. It's about agreements.
Yes, it's about consent and collaborating.
Yes, it's about establishing agreements. And so you're in this situation, it could happen either way. It could happen that a friend comes while you're in the middle of a project already, or it could happen this way where it started and then the opportunity came. And so if the friend comes along while you're in the middle of a project, what your husband's advice is, intellectually they want a discounted price, but intellectually they don't grasp that that's discounted service. So you address that by saying, when your friend comes along, whether if you're not in the middle of another project now, you say in part of your whole conversation, and I would love to be able to do this for you at this rate and share this discount. I need you to understand, though, that if tomorrow somebody comes into my office, into my system, that's a full paying client, your project will go lower on the priority. And instead of taking 2 months, it may take 6. If that has value to you, to working with me at a discounted rate and getting my trade discounts because you're my very best friend, then I'm all about it. But if you're going to wake up in 3 months and be upset and disappointed because this is taking too long, I can refer you out, or you can come in as a client who gets the full attention of a full paying client. What do you want to do? Because You're my love, you're my friend, I love you, and I want you to be happy on this, and I'll be happy either way. Tell me which one you want. You know what I mean? And that's it. It's their decision. The agreement is made. And I love the way that you said that you can even go back after the process has started and share the dilemma and say, my friend, I have a problem. I need to share it with you. I need to have you help me come up what's going to be best for us. Here's what's going on. I love it. It's all about agreements.
If they're part of the process, they're going to appreciate it much, much more. It's just it's happened too many times. I've said to friends, if they wanted just to reupholster a new sofa. My mom wants to reupholster a new sofa. I have to say, the next time I'm at my workroom, I'll look for something for you.
Right. I'm not running there today.
3 weeks, 6 weeks. Exactly.
Right.
If I'm running there today, you're paying me for my time.
Right.
So that's what I would say to this same friend. I would say that I would use that example. Just say that's what's slowing it down. I'm waiting till the next time I'm in the showroom because I'm not charging you for my time. If you want to speed this up, I need to charge you full rate for my time. And they listen and spend differently. Money is a game changer.
Right. Well, and you know what it is? It comes down to what I say all the time is you have to be willing to have the hard conversation. But this is my point. With you think that your friend, your client understands what it takes to just pick a fabric for the sofa. It takes getting in your car, driving to your workroom, looking at fabric, spending 45 minutes, maybe coordinating it with what they've got there. They think it's not a big deal. And when you don't clue them in and you're not willing to have the hard conversation, then it's not just a hard conversation. Now it's an uncomfortable, icky conversation that's mucky and yucky and personal.
It's a whole new problem. And the opposite can happen too. You can just think, well, I'll just run to the showroom and pick out some fabric for her. And not even thinking about the time that you're spending. But then it turns out you decide you need to make another trip to get some trim.
Right.
And then you come back.
Or they don't like it, and you're doing 5 trips.
She doesn't like it, and
you're like, lady, you're killing me here.
So the resentment can go both ways if you haven't established the boundaries and the conversation up front. That you're starting to get resentful because you're all of a sudden working for free.
Right.
And that's not good, all because you didn't have the right conversation in the first place.
Yeah. No, it's so funny how there's 9,000 topics on the podcast about how to run a good business, and literally I would almost say 100% of them come to setting up the parameters, the agreements, and the boundaries at the beginning. I don't care if it's about your marketing, if it's about, relationships with your friends. It just is that way. It's crazy, right?
It's true. We all have to be psychologists.
Yes.
Part-time psychologists, and be just one step ahead of how people are thinking.
It's so true. It's so true. Have you ever started that intake process and at some point the friend or the family member went, do we really have to do all this? Like, what are you doing? Can we just get to doing this? What happens there? Do you just stand, I know you now stand your ground. I'm more looking about for inspiration for somebody who's, it's so easy to say stand your ground, but it's hard to do it.
Yeah, but so important. And you do have to. I mean, you have to just say, okay, I know this seems tedious, but indulge me. Experience tells me that when we skip a step, from past experience, I've learned when we skip a step, it plays out later.
Love it.
Money, time spent now is well invested. And I will say, use that language, say, just please indulge me, because from past experience, I've learned I need to work through my steps.
I love that.
And you can say, I want to give you the best value, and I want to give you the best service and the best outcome. And this is how I can achieve that.
Right. And you know what I often do too is I find that it's helpful if you relate it to something that is very easy for them to relate to. So for instance, if whatever their profession is, if your friend is working and she could be a nurse, or your friend could they could be a nurse, they could be a lawyer, they could be a bricklayer. You just look and you say, when you do your process, if you were to put, going to go out there and lay bricks down on somebody's, front walk, you don't start with the brick. You start with digging out the space. You start with laying the gravel, and then it has a process, because if you just start at step 4, the walk isn't going to last 4 years, so please let me do all the steps, because that's how it's going to be best for you. I love that, Judith.
It's true. The quicker you are, more adept you are at deflecting it back to getting them thinking about a situation that's similar to them.
Right.
The better you'll be, because you've deflected it from them getting in your business, and you've put their head back into thinking about a situation for themselves.
Right. Because, people, look, not even out of malice or whatever, people process from their own point of view. Everybody, everybody, it's about them. It's human nature. It's about us.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you just have to figure out a way to get it back where they can visualize exactly the dilemma that you are sitting there and facing, and how they're contributing to that dilemma. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, maybe I don't need to be so difficult in this process. And there is a reason for this 20-page questionnaire, even though we've known each other for 40 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can defer to, another situation that may not apply, or explain exactly why this intake questionnaire is important. But, for example, just the budgeting or the space planning, and you can just say, look, I'd feel just terrible if we ordered you a sofa and we couldn't get it through the front door. We need to take these steps in order.
Right.
Or I'd feel terrible if we don't go through this budget process, because it's much more difficult with friends and family to talk about the dollars. But if you don't go through that process, I'd feel terrible if I showed you a $20,000 area rug, and you were thinking of $2,000.
Right.
And vice versa. I would be insulting you if I showed you a $2,000 rug when you were thinking you wanted a Persian carpet.
Yes, it's crazy. I mean, it's all about clarity and agreements and everything else, right? So it's what you said. Take a moment, think about it, know what you're going to do, and then present it. And then the other person knows the game plan. And if they don't agree, they don't have to transact. That's the cool part.
And don't necessarily feel that you're locked into that.
Right.
That's the other thing. Situations change.
Right.
And that's where you can go back to them and have a conversation, and again, share the dilemma. And say, look, this is where we started out, but some information has come to light. A couple of new projects have come on that are really important for my business, or for whatever reason.
Right. Right.
Where you can revisit that. Don't feel that you're necessarily stuck with that. If you realized, well, I was short-sighted, I didn't realize how much time this was going to take, you can come back to it.
Right. Right. And
but it's
so
about
much better.
communication.
Right. And so much better to have that recalibration conversation, that hard conversation, rather than let both sides go off into la-la land, getting more and more disappointed and resentful. And it's funny because one of my favorite conversations that I've ever had on this podcast, I completely geeked out, was episode 222 with Lee Cockrell. He was for many years the senior vice president for worldwide Disney operations.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And you know Disney, customer service is their thing. And Lee Cockrell was episode 222. And this is indelibly on my brain. He said, when you have the hard conversation, everything else gets easier. And when you only have the easy conversation, everything else gets harder. I mean, is that it in a nutshell?
It is. It is. What a wise man.
I know. I love it. And of course, I've repeated it on the show 1,000 times. And so everybody that listens to every show is like, seriously, Luann? But I know there's new people every day and you got to hear the message.
It's true. Yeah, no, that one's powerful.
It is. I stopped in my tracks because I've run my life and my business that way. But that's such a succinct, powerful way to express it. And so, of course, I've adopted the saying, but I always credit him.
Good.
So before I let you go, Judith, I know that you have something exciting coming up in the fall of 2018. You're launching a private furniture line. And I also know that this is very dear to you and who you are at a core and your history and your family. Tell us a little bit about this new coming project for you.
Well, it's been a long time coming, but it has had a special place in my heart to develop a line of furniture because, as I told you earlier, my grandfather, together with his cousins, inherited a furniture business that their fathers started. So there were three generations worked in Krug Brothers Company Limited. It ran for over 100 years. And it was formative in the establishing the furniture industry in Ontario and in North America. There's still it's been closed since the late 80s, but there are still furniture pieces found all around the globe. If you Google Krug Brothers Furniture, I tried to write a blog post, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. They're all historical, Victorian. They started doing church furniture and moved into home furniture. But it's in your blood. I was saying that I grew up visiting the factory and the smell of sawdust and such, walking through the factory and learning about furniture construction from my grandfather, the good and the bad. I just remember that. I was just crystal clear, that lesson, and I so wish I could sit with him now and show him the furniture pieces that I've designed, and I've named the first pieces. The first piece is after Frida, my grandmother. And so I'm very excited to be doing this because it troubles me when I go to a showroom and I see the furniture and the construction and the quality isn't there. The uninformed consumer has no idea how much cardboard and plastic is inside the furniture when it's not made here with homegrown indigenous hardwood that's been kiln dried and put together with North American standards, manufacturing standards. So it just became really troubling when I saw what clients were looking at for furniture and the conversation I kept having with them about quality and this whole green movement and the idea of disposable furniture just gets me in the stomach. And, to their credit, I'm so proud to say that part of the Krug legacy was back in the 40s and 50s. They were practicing responsible harvesting and reforestation, and they were planting and harvesting in the Krug forests up here in the Bruce Peninsula, so that in 10 years there would be another harvest.
Wow, that's forward thinking in 1940s.
Yes, it was 40s, 50s, 60s. In those years, they were always thinking about protecting the forest so that they would still be standing, and they still are today. So my response to that same green movement is buy well, buy once. Put your money into it and know that and work with a designer so that you're making good choices and you're making an investment.
So tell me, is this a line of furniture that you are going to use for your own clients, your own purposes? It's a small venture where you've worked with whatever the local manufacturing is there, and they'll produce on demand as you design for your clients? Or is this a greater launch, a more available line that is a whole nother business? Because that now it goes into a whole nother business.
Yeah, I've got a website under development right now. It's supposed to be ready. It's imminent, where I will be sharing pieces of furniture that I've designed, as well as some other pieces that I've hand selected, because I know I've toured the factory. I know the quality. But it's also being sold through the trade at the showroom where it's being made. Oh. And it also will be available through retailers.
Oh, okay. So you're really starting a whole new company.
Yes. Yes. I guess so. And,
yes.
And this is one of those situations that snowballs, Luann. You start out with an idea, and all of a sudden I've taken pause a couple of times and gone, wait a minute, this is a whole big thing.
Yes,
so
it is.
I'm still
distribution,
kind of
manufacturing, sampling. This is a whole big thing. Marketing, price structure. This is a whole new thing.
Everything, yes. Yeah. It started out as something small, and it's kind of snowballed when I had the first few conversations with the upholsterer, and we realized that they couldn't manufacture the legs that I wanted. They didn't have the equipment. I realized, okay, now I got to find a carpenter to make these legs and start putting pipe. And then I had to find another carpenter to make a frame for another piece. And I realized I'm like reinventing the wheel a little bit, but but it's a vision, and I really do want to see special pieces, particularly here in Canada, because it was troubling me that we have to go to High Point to see well-made, beautiful pieces. And we don't. We've got great manufacturers here, really great manufacturers. So it is available. Can I say their name?
Sure.
It is available through Silva.
Okay.
In Toronto, to the trade only. People can buy it. That's where it is available. It's on their showroom floor right now. There are 3 pieces on their showroom floor right now. We're starting off with that to see how much of their showroom space I can have.
Wow.
And then I'll be putting it on my website when that website is ready to launch.
That's
so it's
exciting.
Very exciting.
That is exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah. So I do have a page on my website that says this is who I'm working with, and I can assure you that if I love their quality, you will too.
Well, as you said, you grew up in the business. You grew up walking through the factories. Your grandfather explaining to you the differences between well-constructed and poorly constructed, and the reasons what goes into good construction. So yes, that's awesome. I think it's congratulations. That's
Thank
so
you.
Exciting.
I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. So can designers see the line? Is it silva.com? What do we know what the website is?
Silva for I know
Silver.
They're getting Silva.
Okay.
Silva. I'm sorry, I'm pulling it up right now. Silva for home. The number 4.
Okay.
Oh, I put my phone out of the room so it wouldn't ring, or I'd pull them up on Instagram. Silva
for home
is the website.
Okay.
On Instagram, I'm going to pull up their handle in just a second.
Okay.
But they're relaunching their website to include all of these pieces. I can't get logged in right now, but if you go to Instagram and you type in Silva, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find them.
Okay. Very exciting. Okay, so now I have. I'm not finding it either. Okay. All right. Well, so we can search it on Instagram, and of course we can silva4home.com is the website.
Or follow me on Instagram, and you'll see I did a soft launch a few months back when we had the first few pieces. If you scroll down, you'll find before my trip to Asia, where there are a lot of photos, you'll scroll down and you'll find a quiet announcement of here are some pieces. And I also showed the cover of a book that is published on Krug Brothers Furniture on the history of that business.
How nice.
So follow me on Instagram, and you'll hear
Taylor
all about
Designs.
Yes,
Judith Taylor Designs. Yes, that's awesome. And Judith, is the name Krug Brothers a name that in your area still is a recognizable furniture name? Or, it's since the 80s. That's, oh my goodness, It's 40 years almost.
I know.
How can the 80s be 30 or 40 years ago? That's absurd.
Yeah. It's hard.
I was going to say that's like 15 or 20 years ago, but it's almost 40. So is it a name that is... Is it the sort of thing where people know the name if you're from the area and maybe they don't remember it as furniture, they just remember it as a prominent family name? Or is it, no, it's 40 years, Luann, and we all know, but you know what I'm saying?
No, as soon as I mention it,
people know it.
People respond right away.
Yes, yes.
And they say, oh, yeah, at your show, I talked to some people there, and they certainly I remember them saying, oh my goodness, your grandfather, they grandfathered the industry. They started the industry here in Ontario.
Right. See, that's
because of them. Industry here.
Yes.
No, when I go into furniture manufacturers, they definitely know it.
Okay. Oh, yeah. And industry people know it for sure. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool. So exciting. Well, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed our conversation, Judith, and I really appreciate.
Too.
Yeah, I really appreciate your sharing the insights. It's murky waters there, friends and family, and of course, you could have the conversation every day of the week and come out with different ideas and different dilemmas. But it's tough. I think seasoned and new, it's a tough thing. But would you say the bottom line is get clear on what you will or won't do and stand in that, and then the secondary is don't be afraid to recalibrate, share the dilemma if there's something. I mean, if you have to just narrow it down to two things, that's pretty much it, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And communicate
it. That's it. Communicate it. Be clear. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Judith. I do appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Luann. It's been fun. It's been great chatting with you.
Yes, me too. Loved this. Thank you, Judith. I have to say, one of the most direct conversations that I've ever had with someone about how to handle that relationship with business and friendship and business and family. Judith had specific strategies, specific sentences, phrases that we can all say. And that's so important when you think about it, not to be, well, kind of this or that. No way. She was right there, direct, and I loved it. The number one thing that I love, though, that Judith explained was that you start with, when a family or a friend approaches you, she said, start with, are you going to answer yes or no? Because there's different strategies for if it's a no, I don't want to work with this friend or family, or a yes, I do want to. And I thought that was so brilliant to make that distinction, and so that we take the time, each of us, to consider that. Is it a yes or a no? And so what does she say? If it's a no, you must learn to. Of course, it's a learned skill. Believe me. I said that in the interview. It's one thing to know to do it. It's another thing to grow into the confidence to do it. And as Judith said as well, do as I say, not as I did. So we get it. Looking back, we know it's not always easy, but hopefully you'll take her advice and her strategies. And if it's a no, you'll explain to them that you're very busy right now, that you can suggest a colleague, that sometimes it's okay to be honest. I prefer not to work with friends and family because it can get a little dicey. So that's good, right? If it's no, it's no. If it's yes, I also loved that she said, take a few days to think about it. Take a few days to consider, how will you charge them? Will you charge them? What will it be? What will the parameters be? What will the agreements be? And then the number one great advice that she said was that once you've decided to work with them and you've taken the time to think about it, how you want it set up, you invite them through the front door of your business and you onboard them just as you would any other client. No exceptions. And that is the secret sauce right there. I love it. Thank you, Judith. Awesome. You guys go over to Instagram and follow Judith at Judith Taylor Designs. Let her know if you learned something, if you had an aha moment with her conversation, because I know she'd be thrilled to hear from you. Okay, now Las Vegas Power Talk Friday tour. I'm learning too, right? Because I have learned in the last almost 3 years of this podcast through emails and questions and messages
what you guys need from me. So the point of the Las Vegas Power Talk Friday tour is the response to that. But I think that I'm not being clear on what it's going to be. Of course, we do have several designers signed up already. There are spaces left. It is going to be small, but there are seats left. And I thought, okay, it's like when you guys have to keep revising your letter of agreement. Okay, let me clarify it again, okay? So the point of the Power Talk Friday tour, it is in direct response to the things that you guys have emailed me that you need. I believe this to be a safe, nurturing, inspiring environment where you feel that you can come, not be judged, not be intimidated, and not be expected to know all the answers or to look like you know all the answers. I wanted to create for you a place where you could come and say, I am struggling with this. I need help with that. And you see, the point of making it small is so that you don't have to be in the same spot in business in order to benefit from this. You see, if I had 50 people in a room, then it would be impossible to be specific for your business. Then it would be general business advice. So this is not that. This is a small enough space, a small enough environment, a small enough group so that you get to be specific about the things that you are challenged with in your business, okay? So who will benefit from this? How about this? If this sounds like you, you're going to benefit. You have an idea of how your business is set up. You're sort of moving along and you're sort of hitting your groove and you're really feeling like, this is turning into something and I've got some clients in the pipeline. But then you get that little feeling in your stomach that's like, do I have a business or do I have a me, right? I always say, do you have a you or a business? So you're like, whoa, okay, this is good. I've got this. But if I get 2, even 3 more clients in the next 6 months, am I going to be too busy to handle it? And do I need to hire? And how am I going to hire? Do I have enough money to hire? Do I know who to hire? Do I know how to interview? Do I know what that person will do? Am I locked down so that I can bring someone into my business? Okay, so if that feels like you, then this is for you. Okay, the other thing is maybe you're at the point in your business where you've got 1 or 2 people and you have hit a plateau and you just keep hitting the same numbers, quarter after quarter, maybe it's year after year, and you're wondering why everything is busy. Everything seems to be good, but when you sit down at the end of the year with the accountant, the checkbook doesn't seem to be growing. So that's a different evaluation, right? That's an evaluation of your operating expenses. That's an evaluation of your effectiveness. That's an evaluation of the use of your time versus the use of your junior's time or your bookkeepers or whoever your employees are. So the thing about it is that you may be feeling like, hey, I've got both of those problems or only one of them or a different one. But the idea is that I've created this place where I've got 5 of us experts so that one of us is bound to be able to be the one to shed the light on it for you. And that also the space is small enough so that it can be specific to your exact need. Okay. So that's what this is about. All right. And then the other there's been 2 concerns brought up to me about this. One is that will it be intimidating to be in this space? Will it feel like I should be more successful to be in this space, to be worthy of being in this group? Will I come here and feel like my business is too small or I don't know enough? Well, I'm going to tell you what. I promise you, we could have 8 designers in the room, and 4 of them could be Barclay Butera, Candace Olson, Shay McGee, and Tom Felicia. And that's not how this would be. This will not be an intimidating environment. This will be open and sharing. Here's what I know to be true. I don't care if you're in business 1 year, 3 years, or 36 years like us. We wake up every day. We put one foot in front of the other and we run our business. And some days we kill it and some days we make mistakes. That is the truth for all of us. And that's just what is the territory for being in business. So I promise you, I'm promising you You will be in a room with colleagues and peers who are looking for the same thing as you: help, advice, support, clarity, and answers. Checking egos at the door, not welcome. That's just how it is, all right? So the other concern that has been brought up to me is about the length of the day, the intensity of this day. Now, there's nobody that knows me that is going to sit here and let me tell you that I'm not intense, especially in person. I'm sort of known for my intensity, okay? But the thing about it is that I'm intensely passionate about helping and about getting you to have that moment of, oh, now I get it. The day itself, though, in contrast, is not intense. The day itself is really exactly how I also am. I'm casual. I'm casual in my clothes. I'm casual in conversation. There's going to be time for breaks and tons of time for small conversations where quality work can get done. And the other thing that's very important to me is that we are each going to have a 2-hour break between the meetings so that we can go back, each of us, to our hotel to rest, to shower, to check in with our people before we rejoin again for a very special private dinner, relaxing, talking, sharing our aha moments, and getting to know the sponsors. So I promise you, yes, intensity, but not intensity in I don't know how else to say it. So lastly, I'll tell you, if you're interested but you're unsure, email me at info@luannniagara.com. I'm happy to spend 15 or 20 minutes on the telephone with you, letting you ask me any question you want, because believe me, I want you to be there, but only if we both expect that you will get what you need from this. All right? Just like you with your interior design projects, you want happy clients who tell their friends about you. I want you to be with us, but only if I am really sure that it's a right fit, because I want you to be so glad that you came, that you not only want to attend another one, but instead of me telling everybody how good it is, you tell your designer besties for me. Okay? So to sign up, go to luannniagara.com/Las-Vegas or email me at info@luannniagara.com to chat about it. Thank you for joining me today, for listening to this show, and for sharing it with your friends. If you haven't gotten on my email list and you'd like to, just text the number 444999 and enter the word Design Biz, DESIGNBIZ, no caps, no spaces, and you will be on our email list so you know what we're doing. And that is about it for today, people. Thank you again. I have a question for you. You know, as I always do, what will you do today to improve your interior design business? What will you do today to be excellent? Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.